everyone, and welcome to Global Watch Food Frontlines, where we break down the big issues affecting our world today. I am Lance Agapito.
And I am Alexa Estocani. Tonight, we're tackling a topic that affects every single one of us, and that is global food security.
That's right, Ernest Dizon here. But before we get into the broader picture, let's start with the story of hope. Researchers in Africa have developed something called the super bean, a fast-maturing high-yield crop that's already making waves in Uganda. Let's go to our reporter, Rafael Licaros, who's been following this story. Rafael, tell us more about these super beans.
Thanks, Ernest. This is a story that's bringing hope to some of the most vulnerable communities in Africa. The so-called super bean is a drought-resistant, high-yield crop that's been developed through conventional breeding methods. It's being promoted by Uganda's government and agricultural experts as a way to combat hunger in regions that are prone to food shortages.
That sounds amazing. How is it being received?
Well, Lance, farmers in northern Uganda, a region that's also struggling with the influx of over 1 million refugees from South Sudan, are thrilled. These beans mature quickly, and they can withstand harsh conditions, which is crucial as climate change continues to threaten arable land. The International Center for Tropical Agriculture, which operates one of Africa's only 2 bean gene banks, has been distributing these beans to 30 countries across the continent to help farmers adapt to local conditions.
So, this isn't just about feeding people today. It's about preparing for the future.
Exactly, Alexa. And the next goal is to develop an even more resilient super bean using genetic editing. It's a step towards long-term food security in a region that's already feeling the impacts of climate change.
That's incredible. It's stories like these that reminds us of the power of innovation in tackling global challenges. Thanks, Rafael.
In the Chinook Wawa language, we have a word for circle, lu. And for us, sharing and giving, polish, is a way of life.
So when our neighbors need help, we give through the Spirit Mountain Community Fund. Our housing and food insecurities grants help Oregon families thrive.
And so when you play at Spirit Mountain Casino, you join our circle of giving.
We are the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and we say Hayumasi.
Now, let's zoom out and take a look at the bigger picture. Alexa, can you give us the headlines for the 5 key trends in global food security that we'll be covering tonight?
Absolutely, Lance. Here are the 5 key trends we'll be tackling.
Rising food prices and poverty, population growth and urbanization, rising incomes and changing diets, biofuel production, land use change, and access to land. And lastly, climate change.
These trends are interconnected and have far-reaching consequences. Let's dive into each one of them with our team of reporters.
First up, rising food prices and poverty. Let's go to our reporter April Busadre, who's been looking into how food prices are impacting communities worldwide. April, what's the situation?
Thanks, Lan. So over the past 2 decades, the global food prices have been on a roller coaster. In the mid-2000s, prices for staples like wheat, rice, maize, and soybean, as well as edible oil soared spikes up, leading to protests and riots in many countries. The 2007-2008 food price crisis alone pushed an estimated 100 million people deeper into poverty. And it's not just about the cost of food, it's about the access. When prices spike, the poorest communities are hit the hardest, often forced to choose between food and other basic needs like healthcare or education.
That's heartbreaking. And this isn't just about one region. This is a global issue. But the question now, what caused these price spikes?
Great question, Alexa. There are several reasons that have been debated over the global food price spikes. One of those is the ongoing world population growth. As the population grows, so does the demand for food. Rising incomes and growing per capita food consumption are also driving up demand, especially in developing countries.
So more people with more money means more demand for food. But what about the supply side? Are there factors affecting how much food is produced?
Absolutely, Lance. On the supply side, there are multiple challenges. The rising cost of fuel and agricultural inputs like fertilizers and pesticides has made farming more expensive. In developing countries, agricultural yield growth rates are either declining or stagnating, which means farmers are producing less food than they could. Adverse weather events such as droughts and floods are also becoming more frequent due to the climate change, further disrupting food production.
And I've heard that governments sometimes impose export bans during food shortages. Does that play a role?
Yes, Ernest. So when governments suddenly stop exporting food because of shortages, it can make the problem worse by reducing the overall food supply.
So, it is a combination of population growth, rising demands, and a host of supply-side issues from the climate change and the government policies that are driving these price spikes.
Exactly, Alexa. It's a complex web of factors and addressing it will require coordinated global efforts.
Speaking of population growth, let's talk about population growth and urbanization. Our reporter, Angel Gutierrez, has more on this. Angel, what's the connection between urbanization and food security?
Thanks, Ernest. By 2050, the world's population is expected to reach over 9 billion, and much of that growth will be in developing countries in Asia and Africa. But here is the catch. As more people move to cities for better opportunities, fewer people are left in rural areas to grow food to feed everyone. This mass migration is also leading to the rapid expansion of cities and slums, where access to clean water and sanitation is limited, making residents more vulnerable to food insecurity and disease.
So urbanization is creating a double-edged sword. More people need food but fewer people produce it.
Exactly, Lance, and this trend is only going to intensify in the coming decades.
There is no simple solution to international food security issues. Each of us must take a stand to help our local communities and even international ones. Food insecurity affects us all to a degree alongside inflation and a lack of resources. COVID also left many families not able to support themselves without aid. Donate now to make a difference. Donate to the Food Insecurity and Wellness Center. Donate canned goods, preserves, and boxed snacks to help others in need. Call 613-289-3875 to support us or request food services.
Before we move on, let's take a quick break for fun fact. Did you know that global meat consumption has increased by 62% between 1963 and 2005? And in developing countries, it's grown threefold. That's a lot of burgers and steaks.
Wow, that's a lot of meat. But as incomes rise, so do our diets. Which brings us to our next trend.
That's right. Let's talk about rising incomes and changing diets. Our reporter Neraya Gonzalez has been looking into how changing diets are impacting global food security. Neraya, what's the story?
Thank you, Lance. As people's incomes rise, especially in developing countries, their diets change. They start eating more energy-rich foods like meat, dairy, and processed foods. For example, in China, meat consumption has risen, leading to a surge in demand for grains to feed livestock. But this shift isn't happening evenly across the globe. In India, for instance, meat consumption lags behind other countries to similar income levels, largely due to cultural and religious factors.
So changing diets are putting more pressure on the global food systems, especially when it comes to producing grains for the people and the livestock.
Exactly, Ernest. and this trend is only expected to grow as more people move into the middle class.
Next up, we have biofuel production, land use change, and access to land. Our reporter, Keith Ann Garciano, has been investigating how the push for biofuels is impacting food security. So, Miss Keith Ann, what's the connection here?
Thanks, Alexa. Biofuels like ethanol made from sugarcane, maize, wet sugar beets, and sweet sorghum were once seen as a green alternative to fossil fuels. But here's the problem. When crops are diverted to produce biofuels, it reduces the amount of food available for consumption. In 2006-2007, biofuels were responsible for almost half the increase in the consumption of key food crops. This has led to higher food prices and land use changes, often at the expense of small farmers who lose access to their land. Thanks, Alex.
So while biofuels may help reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, they're also contributing to food insecurity.
Exactly, Lance. It's a complex issue with no easy solutions.
Finally, we have climate change, perhaps the most pressing challenge into global food security. Our reporter, Ella Paulite, has been looking into how climate change is affecting food production. Ella, what's the latest?
Thanks, Ernest. Climate change is a game changer for food security. It affects everything from food availability to food accessibility. For example, in regions like Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, even small increases in temperature can lead to significant drops in crop yields. And with extreme weather events like droughts and floods becoming more frequent, farmers are struggling to keep up. The sad reality is that the countries least responsible for climate change are often the ones suffering the most.
It's a harsh reminder that climate change isn't just an environmental issue. It's a food security issue too.
Absolutely, Ernest. And without urgent action, the situations will only get worse.
Well, that's a lot to take in. Global food security is a complex issue, but understanding these key trends is the first step towards finding solutions.
And it's not just about producing more food. It's about ensuring that everyone has access to safe, nutritious food no matter where they live.
We all have a role to play in this issue, whether it's supporting sustainable agriculture, reducing food waste, or advocating policies to promote food security. Well, of course, it is easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the problem. But remember this, every little bit helps. Whether it's supporting local farmers or being mindful of our own consumption, still, we can all make a difference. And that's what matters.
Absolutely. And it's important to stay informed and engaged. That's why we're here to keep you updated on the issues that matter. Thanks for joining us tonight on Global Watch Food Frontlines. We'll see you next time.